Okay, thank you. Welcome, everyone. It is you are at the Sunshine Coast Policing and Public Safety Committee, July 15th, 15th Thursday, 2021. It is 1:34, and we'll call the meeting to order. First of all, I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories of the Sechelt and the Squamish First Nations. This is where the SCRD is located. We have quorum here, which is 5. So we have an agenda in front of us. Is there anything that anyone would like to add to the agenda at this point? Okay, and we are still waiting for Rcmp to show up, so we might get some things coming in. So I'll just look for a motion to adopt the agenda, and let's continue. Okay, there's our motion, and all those in favor. So we're going. So I guess we're still doing the motion to receive all minutes and communications, everything until we're going to continue. Thank you. Thank you. All those in favor? Yes, received. So first order of business is just we have the minutes. This is Annex A, item number 2, the minutes of this committee from April 15th, and that is for receipt only. So we don't have a business arising, but is there anything anybody wanted to comment on those minutes? Hi, Matt.
Hello. Sorry, I thought the meeting started at 2.
We're all coming along, and then just I'm just using first names, folks. Just we're good with that. Okay. So thanks, Matt. We might have a little bit of catching up to do in terms of the order of the agenda, but Rcmp have not yet been able to show up, and the stats are maybe coming forth. So we're going to continue on. So minutes have been received, and so the next item is Annex B, number 3, which is Kathy Peters as a delegation. Hello, Kathy. I believe you were here back in end of May, I believe, and you did a delegation to the board, and there was a recommendation for these materials to be referred to this committee, and that's where we are. So you're going to do a presentation, is that what I understand? And we, oh boy, I wonder what time we're going till. Let's assume we're going till 2:30, I guess. No, 3 o'clock. 2 to 3? 1:30 to 2:30. So we're going to try to be out of here by, I guess, 2:30. So you want to go ahead?
Sure, I can jump in. Thank you very much. I'm going to start with my ask. My ask is actually to present to all the Rcmp watches. I just finished doing that with Kitimat, all of their watches. So that was going to be my ask. So I was hoping that the Rcmp was going to be attending this meeting. So for many of you, I think many of you have heard me present, so you're going to hear very similar kinds of information, but I'm going to add more items that are particular to law enforcement. So my name is Kathy Peters. I'm a former inner city high school teacher where I taught in the Lower Mainland 40 years ago near the King George Highway, which is still a kiddie stroll today. You can Google my name, Kathy Peters, BC, child sex trafficking, and you can see the scope of my advocacy work. The last 3 months, I focused on presenting to city councils, regional districts, police boards, and school boards, over 100 communities to date. I will resume more presentations in the fall. Human sex trafficking and sexual exploitation for the purpose of prostitution is the fastest growing crime in the world, and it's very much here in BC. So what is human trafficking? It's the recruiting, transporting, transferring, receiving, holding, concealing, harboring, or exercising control over a person for the purpose of exploiting them. The key word is exploitation. This is modern day slavery. Here are the stats. 13 years old is the average age of recruitment, much younger for Indigenous girls. In the lower mainland, it's dropped down to 10 to 12-year-old girls. COVID has made this much worse. Traffickers are very organized and sophisticated. 54% are Indigenous. They are severely overrepresented in the sex industry, and it's much higher numbers in the urban centers, as high as 80 to 90%. This is the worst case of systemic racism in the country. I did share this with BC Indigenous chiefs and the Federal Minister of Justice, David Lametti, a couple of months ago. At the very least, Indigenous women and girls want forensic nurses and rape kits. 82% involved in prostitution had childhood sexual abuse or incest, which is preparation for prostitution later on. 72% live with complex PTSD, which is the worst form of trauma a human being can experience. 95% in prostitution want to leave. It is not a choice. It is not a job. It is not work. 86% have housing needs, 82% need drug rehabilitation. And the new stat that I've got, 84% of prostituted persons are pimped or trafficked. It actually could be much higher than that. I've been raising awareness about sexual exploitation and specifically child sexual exploitation and trafficking, as you know, to every city council, MLA, MP, and police agency in BC ever since the Protection of Communities and Exploited Persons Act became federal law in 2014. So the law, and it's important to understand this law, it has three parts. Number one, it targets the demand by targeting the buyer of sex, the predator, trafficker, pimp, facilitator, John buyer, exploiter of sex are criminalized. Number two, recognizes a seller of sex as a victim, usually female, and is immune from prosecution. Number three, exit strategies are put in place to assist the victim out of the sex trade. So the law does focus on the source of the harm, which is the buyers of sex and the profiteers. A clear statement from Parliament was that girls and women in Canada are not for sale. They are full human beings with dignity and human rights. Vancouver and Toronto are global sex tourism hotspots. Canada is known as a child sex tourism destination. And I've got that from the Trafficking in Persons report and also from this new book that's just out called Sex Industry Slavery, Protecting Canada's Youth by Dr. Robert Christmas, and he is a police officer from Winnipeg. So I have sent hard copy handouts to every city council. They are a good start to address human sex trafficking, especially the handout on how to prevent child sex trafficking. My website has useful information, the Be Amazing campaign, and page 2 has two teaching workshops, one for parents and one for youth. So the global sex trade is growing very fast. It's targeting our children. Children is where the money is, and it's fueled by the internet where most of the luring is taking place. The contributing factors are globalization, unregulated technology, limited law enforcement, and very little prevention education, and that's the piece that I'm doing. Canada does finally have a national human trafficking hotline number. They've had one down in the States for decades. We finally have a number with help and resources, and provincially we do have OC-TIP and Victim Link with their helpline number. Pornography is fueling the sex industry and creating the market for commercially paid sex. Men and boys are the buyers and exploiters of sex and are the key to end exploitation. That's why I do really support the Moose Hide campaign. I appreciate their work. Our boys and men must understand that there is a sacred part of the woman they have no right to, and VPD gave me that line. So what can be done? I've given a simple strategy to city councils: reduce demand by targeting complicit businesses and diminish the supply by education and public awareness. So business licensing is very effective to get the message to the sex industry that they are not welcome. For example, unregistered massage and body rub parlors, nail spas, holistic health centers, day spas, modeling agencies, tattoo parlors, dance clubs, group homes, foster homes, pool halls, recreation centers, anywhere that youth congregate, escort services, cheap bars and hotels, men's clubs, Airbnb, VRBO, casinos, strip clubs, organized crime clubhouses, truck stops, homeless camps, and tent cities. Work camps can all be typical covers for sex trafficking and exploitation. If there are crime clubhouses, councils can use land use bylaws to remove them. Regarding hotels and motels, Ontario, in an effort to curb trafficking, they've just done this recently, actually, they've passed a bill mandating the registration of every guest who is physically and paying and paying for the room. The sex industry is targeting our youth, children, and vulnerable in BC communities, and schools are the recruiting grounds for gangs and sex trafficking. So I'm delighted that a school trustee is here. A critical deterrent are the school liaison officer programs in the schools. The officers prevent crime and protect the vulnerable. Any anti-police narrative is going to harm our communities. That being said, we need officers to understand they are role models in their communities. We need well-supported, strong, compassionate, smart officers. BC is getting further and further behind every province in Canada, both in enforcing the federal law and raising awareness with any prevention education. I do have, and I sent you a list of human trafficking indicators, but there are 4 characteristics that identify the majority of victims. Number 1, ethnic minority group, including the Indigenous. Number 2, labeled as a prostitute. Number 3, drug addicted. Number 4, mental health issues. Victims will deny being exploited, abused until you can assure them hope in the form of safety, help, rehab, or safe housing. Therefore, you need to know your resources on the Sunshine Coast and check them out beforehand. For example, try phoning Victim Link and the Office to Combat Trafficking in Persons. Make sure those numbers work and that you can get the help that you need on the Sunshine Coast. Try out the National Human Trafficking Hotline number to see what help you can get. Have a protocol in place. Do you know your local resources? Do you know who to call? Do not hesitate to work with your mayor, council, MLA, and please reach out and alert your MP. It is really important to work with all 3 levels of government so they are aware of the issue. Victims are not going to give you statements. Most of them do not know they are being exploited or pimped out. Most are boyfriended by Romeo pimps who use love bombing, or we call it gaslighting. Empathy is the key. The Rcmp used to have wallet cards, and I don't know why they don't hand them out anymore or have them anymore, but these are the 5 questions they would ask. Are you working and being paid for what was promised? Are you being forced or pressured to work? Do you have ID? Are you or your loved ones being threatened? Are you free to go where you please? It's really important to connect the dots on this crime. Organized crime and international crime syndicates are usually involved. If you see drug use, missing person, mental illness, a runaway or throwaway, suicide, familiar faces, we call them, in the hospital and in trouble, get the backstory. Typically, sexual trauma is involved. So what do you look for? They are secretive. They have older boyfriends. They're doing overnighters and not coming home. The grades are dropping. They have tattoos of crowns, diamonds, initials. And that's put on by their pimp or trafficker because they are owned. They are tired and exhausted. They wear gold chains. That's very popular now. They have 2 cell phones. They wear expensive or inappropriate clothing. Please note, trauma bonds develop with these girls and the traffickers, pimps, boyfriends. And it's very, very difficult to break those trauma bonds. Stockholm Syndrome, they actually fall in love with their traffickers. Young people are curious and they get trapped. Warning, young male officers are typically hit on, and female officers are often better in these cases. Only 5% get out of the sex industry. Prevention is key. The cost of rehabilitation is about $600,000 per victim. That's minimum. They live with lifelong trauma. Indigenous women and girls live with generational sexual trauma and the complex PTSD. The sex industry, please don't be fooled, is not glamorous or empowering. Please think Robert Pickton case. We need to keep our youth out. They will self-exploit. They will go to parties. They will sext and send nudes, but they do not understand the consequences. Again, in my meetings previously, I've warned you all of the gang problem we have now in the Lower Mainland. Organized crime is out of control, and also international crime syndicates are very, very active. Some of the excellent groups are the Children of the Street in terms of education. The Salvation Army, Deborah's Gate are excellent for exit strategies. And one of my favorite organizations or NGOs is called Sexual Exploitation Education by Tiana Sharafi. I work very closely with her. She's now doing education both in BC and Ontario. So again, my ask was to present to all of the RCMP watches, and I wonder if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. So we got a couple things just to cover. So we'll come back to the RCMP watch issue. So I'm just looking at our clock and time here. So we'll go for some questions first. And we got Maria. Go ahead, Maria.
Thank you so much for your packed presentation, Kathy. This is the first time I've heard you speak, and I'm also new to this meeting. So sorry, everyone, if I am speaking out of turn. But as the person who is most closely related to where you would present to youth aged 5 to 18, and a mother of 2 girls aged 8 and 12, this conversation is very dear to my heart. I'm very passionate about it. So I'm just wondering about how, or if you have tried to, or how I could help you connect with our school board.
I do presentations to school boards. So for example, I presented to Richmond School Board, Burnaby School Board. I will be hopefully presenting to Langley School Board. A lot of trustees will come in on meetings like this. They are invited. But I would love to present to your school board. Also, any PAC groups, parents are really key in this. And then I'm a teacher. I'm happy also to present in any schools situation. I present to about, youngest would be grade 6 to grade 12. And I've done presentations to high schools all over British Columbia. So I can do any of that. I do it for free, just because at this point, there's no public awareness at all in British Columbia.
Thank you. I guess I will just find your information in the meeting package, the addenda package.
I can also, I mean, yes, I would think so.
So Kathy, to connect Maria, an email in the chat, or how do you guys want to?
Sure, I can do that. I can put my email up in the chat right away.
And then Maria can connect with you about SD46 DPACs and PACs?
Yep, that would be great.
Okay. So Kathy's going to put something in the chat, and Darnelda's got her hand up. So let's do 2 things at once.
All right. I have... Our executive administrator sent me an email. She said, you're going to the Policing and Public Safety Committee meeting. So the report, when you presented to us, we referred it to our staff. We anticipate a report will come back August 4th. Some of the things they're considering are amending our business license bylaw, training our business licensing managers as to what to look for when they're granting business licenses, having our staff take the BC OCTIP free online course, collaborating with local organizations. So that was, as we mentioned, the school district as well, Vancouver Coastal Health, Restorative Justice, the Rcmp, Community Services, Community Resources, etc. And then also advocate for provincial change. So we would be sending a letter to the Premier, Solicitor General, and referencing what's happening in Ontario. So that she anticipate that report will come back to council August 4th, did I say? Yeah, August 4th. Okay, so thank you. It's making a difference. Oh, I also had a meeting with the RCMP and brought it up with them. What they indicated is, while they haven't encountered any here on the Sunshine Coast, they do know that some of the local students do encounter and get picked up down in the Lower Mainland. So that is happening. And yes, we are having a meeting the first week of August. That's the only meeting in August that we have District of Seashell. Thank you. So
Darnell, a staff report from Seashell.
Yes.
Could that be referred to this committee through Seashell processes?
Could be, sure.
To kind of loop things back, yeah?
Could be, okay. Sure. Will do, thanks.
And David, your hand is up.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you, Kathy. You presented to the Gibsons Council not that long ago, and it's unfortunate that the police aren't here because, you know, with the regional district such as the size it is, and the fact that there aren't business licenses, it creates, you know, a bit of an issue. So it would have been nice to have had some dialogue with the police. I would also ask Mayor Siggers that she share your bylaw adjustments with respect to this issue with the town of Gibson's, because you know, we have had stuff just recently come to the town, although the issue being discussed is in the regional district, but it's a building where there was some concern that there were activities going on that the police should be aware of. And it's difficult because, you know, it's if you can't relate it to a business license violation or an actual call out for help by someone within the facility, it really does make it difficult. So I think, if, you know, again, it's another thing that Team Sunshine Coast need to be on top of. And obviously crime, if they know there's a weak spot in the armor that they can thrive in, they'll seek us out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, David. I see some other people have joined, so I just want to kind of bring people up to date on why they think that they're joining a meeting that's already in process. We had a little bit of scheduling issues, and so we did start at 1:30 is the time that we started based on our calendaring. So for the people who are joining us, just to bring you back up on why you're joining a meeting in process. So what does, Kathy, what do you need from this committee to approach the RCMP? Do you just approach them independently, or what are you looking something specific? You know, if Staff Sergeant Don Newman won't be able to attend.
Well, always an introduction email is always useful. That is helpful. I can reach out to them, but quite frankly, I've been swamped doing so many presentations. Theoretically, I'm taking the summer off. So any introductions that you can do whatsoever, that would be really useful.
So how do we introduce people around here? Chair, Lori Pratt, is this something that you do as introduction? Or is this something staff needs to do? Any thoughts? Or I could do it. Am I allowed to do this?
Yes, you can do this.
Okay.
You're chairing the meeting, Mark. Go ahead.
Okay, so I will take it as an action to contact Don Newman. We don't need authority. I can act out on my own here. Okay, so I will reach out and connect, serve as an introduction, Kathy, to you, and connect you with Don Newman, and I'll copy you on the email as well, just as introduction. Is that reasonable?
That would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Mark, you can copy me on that too, just so we have
Okay.
it. Yep.
Okay. Okay, we're coming up to 2:00. David, you got your hand up, and you got another question?
I was just going to ask Mark if you wouldn't mind reporting back to both either myself or to the town of Gibson's, and I would suspect probably Mayor Siggers might like to know what's happened from your conversation with Staff Sergeant Newman.
I guess I can report back at next committee meeting, I suppose. That's Kathy's taking the summer off. We're August, September. We're going to be back, I think, in October, I think is our next. Would that be reasonable to report back then, or do you want something sooner?
If something sooner were possible, I think it would be.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll be doing the introduction, and if I get anything further, I'll be looping you in. Okay. Thank you. I did have kind of a question, Kathy, about the order of precedence of when someone sees something. And so we've got 911, which is an active scene, which there are these steps. If you see what you suspect is an active exploitation situation, it's a 911 call. That is our understanding based on the provincial office. That this is what they say. It's an active scene. You think it's an immediate threat to life and safety or property, 911 call. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely, if that's what they recommended, but you do have Victim Link as well. And I would really recommend trying to phone this number. I phone these numbers all the time just to make sure somebody's answering what they do. I helped with a traffic victim last year and the whole family. And I have a good working relationship with Vancouver Police Department. So I worked closely with them and they went straight to Victim Link. And wow, did they move fast, and the help was fantastic. Certainly 911. My question is, do they have the training and understanding of what this even is? I've had situations where people will phone 911 and the operator will go, this doesn't happen here in BC. I don't know what you're talking about. And they didn't forward it. I've had that situation happen, which is a disaster. So I would make as many phone calls as possible. 911 by all means, but you do have Victim Link. We do have that. And we also have the National Human Trafficking hotline number. I'm terrible when it comes to this issue because we're talking about youth and children. I phone everybody. I let everybody know. And my deal is report, because the number of people that complain and phone me and the emails I get are horrendous. And I go, why aren't you making a report to the police yourself? And for some reason, they're just not doing it. And then the police say to me, we don't have the reports. There's nothing happening. I know there's a lot happening because I'm getting all the complaints and I'm getting the phone calls. So I'm just going to say, please, please, please phone all the numbers, blanket it. You do have a problem on Sunshine Coast. I've had enough calls on it already. Sunshine Coast is too close to Vancouver, and Vancouver is a global hotspot. It's just one ferry away. And I have to warn and caution you. You're such a beautiful, beautiful community. You really want to keep it that way. You're going to have to really work hard to keep it that way. I'm sorry.
Okay. I do have a question for directors. Okay, so from what I can see, in terms of SCRD interests and operations, we don't do business license, but we engage with youth and public through recreation. So my kind of question is this part of the training that our recreation staff receive? This is something that I should be. So that's something that I'm posing to the directors about what we think. Is there something that this committee can recommend to the board in terms of presenting this material to staff at an operational level? Or would it already be going to an operational level through this committee, through Mr. Dean?
Mark, if I might,
Sure.
just as a point of order, we have to remember we've already staff has already seen this at the board level, and
Yes.
We had referred it back to this committee just because of the broader audience that we wanted to reach, and which I think we've already done because we've hit the school district now, which is fantastic. So I'm not sure action-wise what more. I can't remember the other piece of the action that we had asked staff to do. I know we had referred it to this committee for that just to get it more public and more widely spread. Maybe Dean or Tracy might remember where what else we did with it.
I'm reading it. It's to refer the delegation materials here. That was the recommendation. So the task has been done then.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Lori. We got David. One more thing.
Yeah, just very quickly, what I would ask of Kathy, if you could send me a concise link package, and I will refer it to the Marine Search and Rescue units here on the coast, because quite often we encounter strange behavior on vessels. And it might be a good idea if there were eyes on the water, because there have been a couple of situations that were very suspicious. So I'll in chat, I'll put you my direct email.
Okay, so I think we we received materials. We've talked about the information. We've shifted some information, connection between SD46. I'll connect Kathy with RCMP and as an introduction. And I think that's it for this item then. Great. Thank you very much, Kathy.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving through, I guess we will pass over item number 4 for now, and we have a piece of communications. Item number 5, Annex C. Why are we looking at this? Reviewing the correspondence. What the committee? This committee isn't talking about recreation. But we'd be talking about communications. Is that between landowners, property owners, RCMP, and this type of thing? And okay, we got 2 people here. We have I don't know who Catherine is.
Mark, it's Len.
Yeah. Hi, Len.
There's a second part to the letter that talks about response when there's a problem in the park. And I think Catherine is here to talk about that issue.
Okay. Okay, so Catherine, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Yes, thank you. It's Catherine McEachran, and I'm a resident on Ruby Lake. And I apologize for the letter, which doesn't appear to have much relevance to this issue at all, but the sort of notice period to get something in front of the committee was quite tight. So really the only thing that's relevant in this letter to my question is paragraph 3, starting on the 5th line. And it is talking about unlawful camping and campfires in Danbosch Park. And we're having a little trouble figuring out exactly how to respond to these. They're happening during the summer when it's very, very dry, and sometimes when, you know, it's smoky and fires are burning. We have called the RCMP, and they have told us that it is a SCRD Parks bylaw issue. And I now know that bylaw enforcement has been beefed up in that there are people available on the weekend, but we're just looking for a clear direction, like what do we do when this happens? Who should we call?
Who do you call? I'm just going to clear up a hand. David, have you got something on this topic, or are we going to let Catherine look for someone to help her who she's supposed to call?
My hand was up from before, sorry.
Oh, okay. So, so Catherine, you're wondering, what are you doing the right steps? Is this kind of what you're asking?
Correct. We have had conversations with Kevin Clarkson before about, you know, what we can do. And part of it, I must say, I don't mean to be just completely whining here. There is an education campaign. People don't realize it is Danbosch Park. They don't realize there is no camping. And we start to get in arguments that it's Crown land, leave us alone. And without any kind of active response, I'm afraid, well, I don't want any vigilante response.
Okay, thanks, Donna has a contribution here.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that this problem is not unique to Danbosch Park. It's just more, it's exacerbated because of the distance from RCMP and SCRD staff. But we're having very similar issues pretty much along the waterfront, and certainly in Elphinstone and in Roberts Creek, where there's fires, there's parties, there's illegal camping, there's people doing things we don't want to describe in the bushes. And, you know, it's very difficult because the bylaw is not really set up to respond. The volunteer fire departments are not, they can't do patrols. And so what ends up happening, frankly, is that the neighbors spend a lot of time just being vigilant about the beaches. And I'm sorry, I would suggest that you contact SCRD staff, probably go through our CAO and see if you can get the clarification that you need.
Thanks, Donna. So I guess it is back to Catherine. This would be, and Len, if you have anything to say, this is our process. So, and Catherine is following the process.
Chair, if I may, yes.
Yes.
I believe the official, when I inquire, the official line is phone the police if it's an emergency. It don't work very well in Pender because of the distance. And the question is still the same question. Do you phone the police? Do you phone the fire department? Do you phone bylaw? What do you do to get a response? I believe Catherine was hoping maybe that the police would be here and would agree that it would be appropriate to phone them. But I note that the Rcmp isn't here right now, which I think is unfortunate because I would have been interested in the answer as well. I see Catherine's got her hand up again.
Yes, go ahead, Catherine.
Right. Well, I was directed by the chair of the planning, Director Toth of the Planning and Development Committee, to join this meeting because this sort of gray area of jurisdiction has been going on 2 or 3 years. And, quite frankly, we're a little bit afraid. Like, I don't know what a campfire, I don't think it's an active crime. And they're saying it's going on in a park, so it's a bylaw matter. So we're just kind of stuck in the middle of the night responding to these fires. We're just hoping for to tell us what exactly we can or cannot do. And yes, I was hoping the Rcmp would be here to help us out with that.
Okay, and Andreas, I think, has some experience with his area and this topic.
Yeah, so in general, the way that campfires get dealt with, especially during a fire ban here in Roberts Creek, is that generally there's a call out. People call 911. There's a call out to the fire department. The fire department shows up, and they end up putting it out or asking the people to put it out. However, during a fire ban, I think the fire department will also ask Rcmp to show up because those are $1,200 tickets that get handed out to every single person that's at that fire. So so generally during a fire ban, they're pretty swift on it. When it's so yeah, I think that 911 is certainly the best way to go about it, and the key is putting the fire out before it starts a fire, and then putting it out quickly. And I think the fire department is certainly best for that.
Thanks, Andreas. So if there's a fire on the go and it's not being attended or it's a fire ban, it's a 911 call. Okay. That makes sense, Catherine?
Yes, I guess it's another, am I muted?
Nope, we can hear you.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. As you know, it's a small group of local residents that pay for our 911 response, and to me, it's a park issue. But right now, we're just trying to look for quick answers to make sure the fires get put out. So I should be calling 911 and not the Rcmp number, the 885-2266. That's what you're telling me?
911 is an immediate active scene of life and property.
Okay.
David, do you want to weigh in here?
Well, just because misery loves company, here in Gibson's, and it's something we share with you, Mark, is the Checkwell plant. Because people go in there, they camp, they have beach fires, and there's a bit of an issue with the fire department responding to that property. So, it's a frustrating issue. We've had letters to the town of Gibson's, local residents complaining about the fires, complaining about garbage and debris on the beach, and who's going to clean it up. And it's frustrating. It's just, you feel like you've got your hands tied behind your back and you're standing out in the middle of a 5-way intersection trying to direct traffic.
You're summarizing what bylaw enforcement or how these issues are dealt with. So I hear Andreas has had success in Area D. Donna, is that your recommendations? You tell people to call 911 if it's a fire on the beach? Matt?
I'm just wondering if there's sounds like there's confusion around this, and this should be a fairly simple issue. So I'm just wondering if perhaps we could try and get staff to just put out some communications on what to do if you spot a campfire during a fire ban.
Dean, have you got anything to want to say about that aspect of that communications and helping people understand what their role is?
Well, I know we've tried to do some education on wildfires and beach fires in general. I think Andreas is correct. While this fire ban is in place, it probably makes sense if there's fires being lit and stuff on beaches or in parks during the fire ban, that 911 is the appropriate place to call. Outside of a fire ban situation is where it gets complicated, because where we have these beach fires, while there's no fire ban in place, a lot of the calls that come in to bylaw or to the Rcmp or to the fire department are as much about the noise associated with the fire as they are with the fire itself. And SCRD doesn't have bylaw staff that are available to work nights and weekends. And even if we did, we wouldn't send someone alone at 2 a.m. to a loud beach fire without Rcmp backup. So that's where it gets really complicated. But in terms of fires during a ban, I think 911 is the appropriate place to direct them. Thank you.
Andreas, your hand is still up. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that if there isn't a fire ban, then I would recommend, if there's say an unattended fire or a fire that's gotten out of control or is too large, then the non-emergency number for the fire departments, I know that Roberts Creek has one phone that's manned 24/7. So I think that would be the appropriate place to call during when there's not a fire ban, so that the fire department can at least go and check it out and have a look and speak to the people there. I don't think 911 would be the time to call them.
So in terms of kind of where we are, Catherine, I think, the focus, I think, for the next couple of months is fire is a hugely serious issue for us on the coast, getting more serious daily. We had the vehicle up and behind Field Road torched, arson, terrible, awful potential for something like that. So I think hypervigilance is probably, the place that we need to be going. So does that help you with maybe the next couple of months?
Yes, I'll tell you something that has helped tremendously is the signage that's in effect right now all over the highway related to the campfire ban. The problem, as indicated by Director Tees, is once that ban is lifted, people feel that either A, the campfire is okay in a park, or B, they don't know the boundaries of the park. So I think signage is an important part of education here. But thank you all for your help.
So there is some success going on.
Yes, while the campfire ban is on. As I'm saying, people notice the signs, and so when you say put the campfire out, right, they've at least had some information that it's a prohibited activity.
Okay. All right, Catherine, I think we don't have any hands up, and our discussion is kind of, I think we have some direction on how to proceed in terms of the public and directors and staff. There's something what's in that chat. Oh, that's Matt. I was getting my mats mixed up. There's two mats here. Okay. Okay, Len, looks like you're going to have the last word on this one.
Well, I don't really think Catherine got a satisfactory answer, but I don't know how we go about getting a satisfactory answer for her. It's probably something that we need staff to work with the police and get a protocol agreement in place on what they're going to do in all the circumstances. Because we've had this problem at Baker Beach for years now, and it's very similar to the one that we're having at Dan Bosch Park. I know the residents at Dan Bosch Park, when there's not a fire ban on, people will just walk away from a fire without making a campfire, without making sure it's out. And we've had instances where the residents have had to go and make sure the fire is out. And I guess the question is, who do you call to try and stop that behavior? It's usually the same people, and they need to be given a ticket, but we don't have, as both Director McMahon and Director Ties is saying, we really don't have an agreed to and set policy on making sure all the signs are up, making sure who knows who is responsible for what to go do this. I don't know how we get that in place, but I guess we as directors need to continue working on it. Anyways, that's my thoughts. I'd be interested in anybody else's.
Well, I see Darnell has got her hand up with thoughts.
Two things. We haven't had the RCMP coming to these meetings for the last couple of meetings. I, for one, will be taking that up with the, I don't think he's staff sergeant, whatever his title is, with Don Newman, because this is about policing on the Sunshine Coast and safety, and we need a representation here. It doesn't have to be him. It could be somebody else, but we need to have a representation from the RCMP at these meetings. And then we have Matt Trite with us. He's responsible for emergency planning on the Sunshine Coast. So I don't know if this is something that he's looked at or is considered, or if he's even willing to weigh in on this at this point, but it might be worthwhile to hear something from him.
Darnell and Matt, any contribution?
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think what's been discussed has laid out the situation well. During the fire ban, the RCMP are more likely to respond and hand out tickets. In normal times, or times when there's not a fire ban, it is an issue with enforcement that we don't. As the CAO mentioned, most of these happen late at night, and we don't have bylaw officers available late at night to respond to those situations. If the fire itself is a danger and it can't be put out by people, they should be calling the fire department. If they were to find one the following morning and they're able to extinguish themselves, then obviously that's the correct thing to do. I know it's not the responsibility per se of individual citizens to be extinguishing those fires. But it's, like I said, to call out the fire department for a small fire that somebody could put out themselves, to call those volunteers out for that. If they don't have to, then they'd probably appreciate that the fire was just put out by the citizens themselves. Signage is something we are looking at increasing, hoping that at least educational signage will improve people's disposition towards extinguishing the fires, as well as their behavior during the night as well. Trying to inform those people that these are neighborhoods where families live, and things, it's noise, it's garbage left behind, and it's the fire itself. And if through education, hopefully we can get people to attend to all three of those problems.
If I might just follow, but there is a responsibility for all of us. If I see a smoldering cigarette butt on my road, I shouldn't just walk away from it. I should extinguish it. We all have a responsibility here. And what you said is, if an individual cannot control it. So if an individual has the means, a shovel, boots, they really should take an effort to put out a fire or stop a potential ignition source.
Yeah, if they're able to, that would be, I think, the wisest thing to do, the fastest response to that issue. Obviously, if they don't have the capabilities, then they need to call the fire department.
Yeah, okay, thanks. We got Donna, and then Catherine's got her hand up again. So Donna?
Yeah, I'm just going to comment that all these problems are long-standing, but there a number of factors are contributing to make it more severe. You know, there's more population density, so when kids hold beach parties, there's more people there to be annoyed. And there are more people going out on the beaches, especially since COVID. But also because we continue to develop and have more people here. And then the fire risk is becoming much more severe. So something that, you know, we could afford to let ride 20 years ago, maybe not so much anymore. So I think it's going to get to the point that we will actually have to address this somewhere in the future. Just saying.
How, we're not sure. Catherine, I think we're going to be wrapping this up pretty soon. So if you have a comment.
Sure. I mean, you know, to put it sort of squarely between your eyes, our view is, you know, this is your park, an SCRD park, where these issues are arising. And it's, our request is, you know, take care of business in your park. In this situation, when we call 911, basically it's a fire department we completely pay for that is dealing with these park issues. And I really feel the responsibility has to be with the SCRD. I mean, maybe gating the park at night is a good idea. I don't know, but it's a scary situation.
Thank you. We've got Darnelda and Andreas.
I understand what you're saying, Kathy. Like, you're looking at the regional district taking care of regional district parks. But what we're talking about is people's behavior. And as a, you know, any government, we cannot mandate behavior. And the only thing we could do is have somebody there 24/7, and you'd be paying for that too, right? Because we're not spending, I mean, it's money coming out of all of our pockets to do this. So yes, if the regional district residents want all of these parks manned, we can do that. We can definitely do that. And it's going to be a tax increase to do that. So do we want to do that? Or do we want, as citizens on the Sunshine Coast, to say, these are our parks. They've been put here for our benefit, for the benefit of all, and we will help take care of that. And we'll go either way. We will go either way because we take our direction from the residents.
Thanks, Darnelda. Andreas.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I appreciate those comments, and I do think that maybe some signage could be improved, especially around, you know, if there's a fire ban on, maybe every single park should have a little sign that says fire bans are active. But at the same time, yeah, policing people's behavior is ultimately the job of the police, and you know, we do pay our taxes to pay for police and to pay for our fire departments. So I don't think that it should be the role exclusively of people of our bylaw department to police people's behavior. I think the police and the fire department are already two entities that are in place of that, for that particularly. So I appreciate the comments, and I think maybe some signage could be improved, but ultimately, when it comes down to behavior, that needs to be done by the Rcmp. Thanks.
Thanks, Andreas. Maria, you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just, I've been actually thinking about this a lot as a resident that lives about a block from Flume Beach. Flume Beach is used by a lot of people, locals and non-locals, and parties and fires. And we have Roberts Creek Speaks Facebook site where if a fire's left going, a resident will say, I had to put out a fire again at Fleam Beach. So I was just wondering how much the SCRD or how much the people in this room could suggest a social media blast, or through the various tourism, welcome, SC, Sunshine Coast, Instagram, you know, because the other thing that we're doing now as locals is we're bringing bags to pick up the garbage every time we go to the beach, my daughters and I, because there's so much like Tim Hortons crap all over our beach, and we want to, as locals, keep it nice. So I thought that maybe if there is that kind of to do, or there is that kind of reach, I don't know if the SCRD has its own handles or its own things, or whichever sites Seashelt or Gibson's have for their, to have either a fire or a let's, you know, not litter, some sort of campaign that says those things in social media.
So is the regional district doing its part in getting these messages out? And are we doing enough as a regional district? Good question. Can we do more? I don't have an answer for that one. We are coming up to 2:30, which I think is our unofficial time. We're going to be wrapping up here. So Donna, you might be getting close to the last word.
I was just going to say this committee could also always recommend additional social media messaging about beaches, fires, garbage, etc. There was a Facebook campaign earlier around the May long weekend, but it never hurts to repeat it, especially with the fire ban on.
Repetition. And Matt.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're still doing the roundtable, so I'm just going to sneak in this little comment that's related between this and the roundtable. I just want to throw out the idea. I don't want discussion on it right now, but thinking about, could we have a weekend bylaw service? So pool the resources between SCRD, Gibson's, and Seashelt, and create a new service within the SCRD to provide that bylaw coverage. I see the need. I see it in Seashelt. We have so many more people in the summer. I think it's a need that we should think about.
There has been discussion. Getting 3 local governments to coordinate on a person for bylaw, yeah, might be a challenge, but I know the SCRD has up its budget proposals for bylaw enforcement, but I'm not sure how we would get 3 governments to agree at this point in the future. But you did remind me of the roundtable.
Sorry, Mark.
I'm looking.
Dean put his hand up about that.
Oh,
About the
sorry.
bylaw.
Happy to address it. Is it possible? Yes. Are there service level implications? Yes. Would there be taxation implications? Yes. But the most challenging piece to address, even if the local governments were to come together, do an increase to service, including taxation implications, to put this in place, would we send a single bylaw officer to a loud beach fire at 1 a.m? No, we would not. We will not do that. That would be a completely unsafe thing to ask an individual to do. So there's more to solve in changing behavior, especially behavior late at night, than simply service level improvements or service level increases in taxation. There's the problem of we're not sending an individual into potentially an unsafe situation late at night on weekends, even if they are available.
Thanks, Dean. Employee safety of employees, like number one. So, if we may, committee, we've wrapped up the topic of fires and the letter from and the discussion. I'm kind of lost on terms of what our time is for this meeting. So as long as so we have time for a roundtable, if we would choose. So I'll open the floor for a roundtable. How much time do we want to, I'm thinking 15 minutes, top? Something like that. Anyone want to start? Andreas is number one.
All right, so I'm assuming that's not 15 minutes per person?
If you're the only one.
I just want to point out that there has been some back and forth between me and Don Newman, as well as staff, around public safety in the Roberts Creek pier area. There is a regular, I guess, crowd of people that's up to 40 people that tend to frequent that area and tend to socialize, drink, and there has been some incidences of drug use, as well as abuse and threats of violence at times. So the RCMP is stepping up their patrols in that area, and they're responding to these, but they're also asking the public to definitely let the RCMP know when such behavior is happening, so that they can respond appropriately. But yeah, it is an ongoing problem, especially I think the pandemic, when people are looking for outdoor spaces to meet and socialize. It has exacerbated the problem somewhat, and there are some people that are no longer feeling safe to go down to the pier, especially in the evenings. So it is an issue, and the RCMP, whose role it is to oversee this kind of stuff, is stepping up. But I hope that that will be sufficient, but that's only on the weekends. So yeah, it is a matter of concern, but Don Newman has been very receptive and has been replying to me on a regular basis. So thanks for that.
An improving situation?
I don't know about improving, but at least the RCMP is listening and responding.
Thank you. Donna.
Yeah, this is not exactly a roundtable item, but one thing that's coming up a lot recently at the SCRD is committees. You know, do we have too many committees? Are the committees doing the things that they are supposed to do? And this is one of the committees that I think should be reviewed. The way that the town of Gibsons and the district of Sechelt handled the policing issue is that the RCMP come and do a regular report to council. We don't do it that way at the SCRD. Not really sure why, and I don't actually know what the history of this committee is. But, you know, I think at some point we should open the discussion. Is this committee fulfilling its function? Well, maybe we should start with what is its function. And then, is there a better venue? Is there, are there issues not being met through this committee? Or is there time being well spent? You know, all that kind of thing. So I look forward to a future discussion on this topic.
That future discussion, you're talking about receiving the statistics as the way the district of Sechelt and the town of Gibsons receive the statistics. And whether we want to put that on the agenda of this committee for the next meeting? Lori's smiling. Okay, I think Matt's got you in the round table though, Lori, unless you want to respond to Donna.
If I could respond to Donna, it's actually, it's something that'll be coming up probably as a notice of motion in the next couple of months. So, yeah, so be watching for that. Just in a just in recognition that to make this committee more efficient and efficient use of staff time, and inviting all the parties that are already here, and making sure that there's still that communication and still everything that's coming forward, but changing up how we're doing it. So it's actually, sits as maybe on community services or pardon me, planning and PCD or CAS, or even a board meeting, quarterly in that way. Thanks.
Thanks, Lori. Matt, you're up.
Yeah, thank you for doing the roundtable. I'll put my other half of my pitch in, the first part before proposing the weekend bylaw, and that is essentially looking at RCMP coverage. I think that in the summer we see a lot more people. In the weekends we see a lot more people. So that's an increased load on the RCMP. But at the same time, I believe all three local governments, or I guess Seashell Nation as well, is putting their bylaw responsibilities onto the RCMP as well, because we don't have bylaw staff on the weekends. So on the weekends, RCMP is responsible for that. So on top of the added load that the RCMP is receiving for just more people, we also do this we put the bylaw responsibilities on them. So I know Seashell is increasing our RCMP complement for next year and the amount we're funding. I believe there's a discussion about doing that from the provincial side as well. I think there's a little summer top-up that the RCMP receives for the tourists, but it's quite small. So I'm just trying to think of other ways that we can support the RCMP in dealing with the increased number of people that we get on the weekends. And one way to do that is take some of their load off by offering bylaw services. So that's kind of where that idea came from. It's just trying to support the RCMP during their most busy times.
Thanks, Matt. Comments on the round table. Anybody want to say anything? I'll say my piece. The wildfire piece has got me quite concerned. When that car that was torched was extremely severe. So yeah, that's the thing that's bothering me. It's starting to keep me up at night. The wildfire issue, considering we have 2 months to go in the season. So that's my piece in terms of the roundtable. It looked no other ones going once. Oh, sorry, David.
Thank you. It's I think the big problem with a lot of this is feet on the ground, whether it's RCMP or bylaw. And, if it's responding to something that's hazardous to public safety, I think someone, the RCMP probably has a little more clout than a part-time bylaw enforcement officer. And as, Dean mentioned, is the risk to the health of the individual. It is frustrating in the community. When we were doing the neighborhood watch here or the business watch in Gibson's at the beginning of the pandemic, there was an evening I called out for the RCMP. They actually never showed up. Finally, I called the fire department. They showed up. I called EMBC and the fire department showed up before the ambulance, but the RCMP never did show up. And, they have to assess the calls they're dealing with. If they're dealing, and this is another problem, is the mental health issue and drug opioid crisis on the coast, because the RCMP have to prioritize what they respond to. And if they're dealing with a mental health domestic issue, that's 2 units tied up with that one incident. Going to the bylaw issue, if we had, let's say, 2 weekend bylaw officers, an 84-kilometer long coast is a long area for 2 people or 4 people even to patrol. One call ties them up. What happens with the next call? So human resources dealing with these issues is a massive problem. And, as Dean said, we're going to pay for it one way or another. Hopefully it's not with a major incident and a fire, but, I think we have to come to terms with the reality that a lot of these resources between the fire department and the RCMP, mental health, they're all understaffed.
More demand than services available.
Well, it's also people operating out of their wheelhouse, like RCMP having to deal with mental health issues. You not always have the right person doing the right job, and it creates other problems, which create problems to the RCMP because they haven't handled something properly. Then they lose their credibility because they're getting bad press. We're into this sort of really badly spiraling vicious circle. And, I think, sooner or later, we're going to have to sort of bite the bullet and say, we need to pay for more people in the proper wheelhouses to deal with these problems.
Thank you, David. So I'm down to the second call for roundtable. One more call through
Okay.
third time. Oh, okay.
Okay, so one thing, I texted Don Newman, he said he's off this week, so his second in command was supposed to attend the meeting, and I just told him he hasn't come, so that's fine. This week is the week that we're going to be hearing about the positions that we've requested. Town of Gibson's requested someone to deal with the homelessness piece, and we put in a grant for homelessness and a position with the RCMP. Position with the RCMP would do things like liaise with various groups, do the community watch, the block watch, all of those sorts of things. So by the time we have our next meeting, we should have information on where those went.
That's a response for a grant proposal.
Yes.
And you say 1 week from now, you're expecting the results?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Any final words? Thanks, Darnelda, for following up on the RCMP. I would say we are done our agenda. So let's leave this meeting. We need a
Motion to
motion.
adjourn?
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor? Terrific. Done. Thank you everyone for attending. And we'll see you next meeting at TAC, right?
What time is it?
What time is it?
I think it's at 3.
3:30.